And now Cecil County and soon the world, you're going to witness a new film. We have with us in the studio tonight filmmaker Joe Piner and historian researcher Ray Jefferson. Welcome, gentlemen, to Cecil TV. You got a new film out. Tell us about it.
Well, first, Rob, thanks for having us on. And as you know, the film is titled Blackboards and Barriers. And this film is about the colored schools in Cecil County. Now, we use that term colored schools because that's what they were calling them back in that time period. But the film takes you on a journey as you learn about these schools and the different era that we went through in history through the former students.
Oh, so you actually have former students that you talk to and interview. Cool.
Yes.
So in conjunction with the research, Ray, that you've done, you dovetail that with the students' interviews and stuff like that, and old pictures and things like that, and get a really good depiction of what it was like back then.
Yes, we were able to talk with several former students of the colored schools, and in doing so, get a better picture of their experience through that time period. Just fascinating to listen to all the stories of the individuals who actually went to these colored schools.
And kids nowadays have no clue about what it was like, do they?
Well, some do, but I think when you watch this film, they will definitely know about what their elders went through, and hopefully that would encourage some kids to want to do better, because when they look at the barriers that these former students went through, then maybe that will encourage them to do better.
And from our previous conversation, I understood that there was an elementary school. You go through Port Deposit, my town. You go through elementary school, and then you have to somehow get up to Elkton to where the high school is, around Booth Street. How did that happen?
Well, and I'll let Ray take over on some of that history part, but Elkton only became important when the kids had to go to high school, because Port Deposit, Cecilton, Northeast, and Rising Sun, and all these different places in Cecil County, they had schools back at that time for elementary and middle school. But once that cutoff happened, everybody ventured to Elkton because they had the high school there.
And they just took the school bus, right?
Some.
Well, they didn't have school buses. In the beginning, they had to either walk to school or find a way to get to school if it were a long distance. And of course, that was quite a struggle if it was a long distance from, say, Cecilton to Elkton.
Yeah, and it snowed a lot more back then than it did now.
Yes, indeed.
That's just one of the many barriers. I mean, the schools, I imagine the schools didn't have quite the resources that the white schools had.
Definitely not.
A lot of hand-me-down books, in the colored schools, so-called colored schools. The kids knew this too because they had handwritings from the original schools that had these books.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the funding definitely wasn't there for the African American schools back then, and some of the conditions to learn in, as you will see in the film, is unbelievable, but yet they learned.
Yeah, and a lot of people did very well. I mean, you have quite a few alumni of this school system. Like, I know our mutual friend Bernard Purdy, who's going to be in town soon, went through that program, right?
Yes, and actually Bernard Purdy was one of the first colored kids, as we're going to use that term again that they used back then, to integrate into the school system in Cecil County. So do you want to add on to that as far as the part of it?
Bernard was fascinating. His story, I'm not going to tell any part of it because he does a great job of illustrating that in the film, but he was quite a leader back in those days of the students in Cecil County. So I think he was probably a good choice to integrate the schools. But I allow the film to give you more detail on how that went about. It's fascinating.
Well, heck, yeah.
Because he meant resistance, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I can imagine. But my good buddy Bugsy Purdy, Thursday the 20th at Elkton High School, there's a free screening of your film, right?
Correct.
And how does that all work out?
Well, again, Thursday the 20th, this week actually, from 6 to 8 p.m. The public can come there. They can see this film screen free. There's no charge. And we want to give back to Cecil County because we produced this film in Cecil County. So before this film hits any theaters or airing on any television, they get to view this film.
And if you missed the film at Elkton, Northeast Library will have the film on Saturday, the 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m.
Okay, and if you miss both of them, you can always go to the website, which is www.blackboardsbarriers.weeble.com.
Yes,
right?
but
Yes.
there's a www.blackboardsbarriers.com. We believe
like most of them.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, cool.
I'd like to mention the other screenings too, just in case they say
Okay, yeah,
something.
please.
We have a screening on Sunday, the 23rd, at Wright's AME Church, right after the 12 o'clock service on Booth Street in Elkton. And then the next one is at the Historical Society on Main Street on the 25th. Is that the 24th or 25th? 23rd and 24th, I'm sorry. 24th from 2 to 4 p.m.
That's a week from today.
Right.
And then the last one so far is May the 8th in Port Deposit. We don't have the location yet, but we know it's going to be 6 o'clock. So it'll be updated on the website.
And where was the old school in Port, just out of curiosity?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Where was the old school in Port, just out of curiosity?
The old school in Port, I don't know the exact address. I know it was tough getting there because one of the students will explain how tough it was walking to school. He couldn't believe that he was, able to do back in those days, but I don't know the exact address, but we do have pictures and film of the school.
Cool.
We actually have him at the school. We
He's
filmed
at
him
the school. Yes, walking around the school.
And in addition to Bernard Purdy, there's other alumni that are very famous. You want to mention a few of them?
Well,
Elmer Warwick, he was a Korean war veteran. We tell his story in the film. Charles Given, pioneer in the political world as the town commissioner in Elkton. Thelma Newell worked for the DuPont family for many years. We have several in there. Shirley Hill, she tells a fascinating story of how she came through the school with Charlie Givens and others during the 50s and 60s. Just a variety of people who achieved a great deal in Cecil County and also the country in some of their pursuits.
And some are still around.
Yes.
yeah, we thought it was a great idea to actually dive into these students' lives and show you what they've done and where they're at now instead of, the subject is the school itself.
Right.
So when we add the students into it, it just gives it more of a personal touch.
Sure. Sounds great. And there's a lot of selections, a lot of screenings. And I already asked you what's next for in the film for you, Joe, and then it's going to be a surprise. You have to come back and come back and tell us all about it. Anything we missed?
We covered quite a
I
bit.
don't think so. I think you covered it pretty well.
Well, thank you both, and I'll see you at one of the screenings.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thanks for having us.